Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Hard Claim with Viva La Sam. I'm Sam, and this is a show where we talk to people who play Blood on the Clocktower and get their player perspective of the game. Joining us for this week's episode is Brendan. Thank you for joining.
Of course, I see that we've reached the scraping the bottom of the barrel section of finding people to talk to, but I'm very happy that I was asked on.
No, there's no shortage of people I want to talk to, and I just like mixing it up, reaching out to people. I had a little bit of time where I'm like trying to reach out to some people who I know play on TPI stream. Lots of fun people that play there, yourself included. Sometimes just a spur of the moment thing. Maybe I see somebody on the stream who's like, "Oh, I should ask them," or they just pop in my head, whatever. So just like mixing it up.
Excellent. Been a big fan of yours. We've been playing together for a while, so yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Was very pleased to be asked.
All right. So you've asked to load in Bad Moon Rising.
I did.
We have passed out some characters. You've drawn the Tea Lady token.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, if we were chatting on day one, what would you claim to me?
In a game of BMR, if I am the Tea Lady, I'm never claiming Tea Lady. I'm also never going after my neighbors. I just like things for stuff like that. I just like it to happen organically. I'm the same
science.
way with exactly science. If I'm the Virgin, I'm never claiming Virgin in a game of TB. It's just going to happen. So I'm the same way with Empath. So yeah, if I'm a role where like there is my information depends on people around me, I'm not usually one to like try and force it. At least that's the way I'm playing right now. That can obviously change in the future, but at this moment, if I have a role like Tea Lady or Empath or Virgin where my neighbors or other players have an effect on what happens to me, then I'm just not saying anything about it.
Makes sense. I think one of the most boring things people can do is just get stuck in their own metas and play styles. Even earlier, I saw Milk recommend somebody like don't define your Clocktower game by your play style. Feel free to mix it up. So it's always good to kind of rotate like kind of what you're doing. I know I've evolved a lot as a player.
For sure.
And I like your method with Tea Lady, because how many games have you seen where somebody says, "Oh, for no particular reason, I want to nominate my neighbor and see what happens," and then they don't die, and the next night you're dead.
Yeah, half the Grim immediately marks you as the Tea Lady on their own personal Grims.
Yeah, maybe worst case scenario, you're covering for a Tea Lady on their other side, and then So it's a good way to kind of just let everybody know that you're the Tea Lady, and then. You save somebody, but now you, on the flip side, if evil doesn't know where a Tea Lady is, that can be really hurtful.
For sure.
Yeah, especially if they have an evil on one side of the Tea Lady, then they kill the other side at night without realizing that there's a Tea Lady.
That tells me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's an assassin. That's what it is.
That too. Yeah, it's just an assassin. I love BMR because you never know what's going on. You never know for sure, I should say.
Yeah, I always describe it as for any one thing that happens, there's 5 explanations for it, and 5 things happen, you have like 25 explanations in totality. Really, I guess the goal is over time you kind of narrow down what's what.
I was having this conversation. I've had this probably many times over the past, but like when you're building a script and you put just one BMR character on there, you're probably going to have to put 3 or 4 more on there. Just because there's so many things that are specific to BMR. And some people can see that as a weakness of the script. I think that just means that it's so cohesive that any script where you put a BMR character on there, it's going to have to become a mini BMR script.
Yeah. What we know about the base scripts is that the characters were designed with their home scripts in mind first.
Yeah.
A lot of Trouble Brain works well elsewhere, although not all of it. You don't always need an investigator or a librarian on a script, but they sometimes work. For example, SV is kind of the same way. A lot of those work elsewhere, but Not all of them. Yeah, BMR is definitely way more specific of a script. And
sui generis, yeah. they would call it, of its own self.
Yeah, I'll say BMR is my least favorite of the base three, although I do still like it. But those reasonings have nothing to do with the fact that the characters don't really work on customs usually.
BMR is my favorite base three.
Yeah. Well, let's get into
it. Never sad to play a game of BMR because, like we just said, anything that happens, there is up to 5 explanations for why that could happen, and it's just about figuring out what happened and why it happened, and you just narrow it down over time, and it's very social because nobody knows what's going on. Sometimes not even the evil team knows why something happened, and then you just go from there, and it's just really it's collaborative in a way that I enjoy.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's rewind quite a bit. How did you discover Blood on the Clocktower, and how long ago was that?
Well, I was just looking at this. My first Blood on the Clocktower game that I played in was, I think, December of 2022. No, December 21. I was I've always been a board game fan, and I would watch board game videos online. I really got into Overboard on the Polygon channel. And then that's how I got onto. I know a lot of people get into Blood on the Clocktower through Werewolf. I never had played Werewolf itself before. I have played One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is that game where you use the app to like facilitate the night phase, and then you just wake up and you play one day and you're done. And then so I watched an episode of Overboard on that, and that was great. And then I saw that there was this new channel called No Rolls Barred. And a person I liked from the past was on there, and I started watching those. And then I saw this playlist on the side that said Blood on the Clocktower, and it was like, oh, this is a playlist that has like 13 episodes or something on there. I'm not touching that for a while. And then I just eventually I watched them. I watched them all, possibly even many episodes in one sitting. And I just fell in love with it. I started watching TPI when No Rules Barred launched a Discord. I was applied to be a moderator, and so I became a moderator, started playing games on that server, running my own games, although I don't storytell very much at all anymore. And then I was very lucky to be invited onto the TPI server myself, and now I play most Sundays.
Yeah, obviously No Rules Barred has been a huge influence for so many people. And I think it really has led to maybe even most people getting into Blood on the Clocktower without social deduction experience. Some don't even have board game experience before getting into this. It's just feels like Blood on the Clocktower speaks to a lot of people, obviously, for sure, for different reasons. Funny enough, you mentioned One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and that was my introduction into board gaming in general, and I loved it. I would watch that on I think channels like JK Party or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't do their gaming videos anymore, not for a while, but that's where I found that game, and I was really addicted to this idea of, oh, we're all working together, but a few of us secretly aren't.
Yes, exactly.
And I thought that was fascinating, and I did get into Werewolf for a while. We were doing that during the pandemic. I've talked about this many times before, but needless to say, Blood on the Clocktower, in my personal opinion, does it better. And like I said, it really speaks out to a lot of people.
Indeed, yeah. There's always in Werewolf, you always want to have at least one villager, somebody who's there to do nothing, because that helps that social aspect. But when once I found Blood on the Clocktower and really got into it, there was no real going back.
For me, it almost immediately killed my interest in Werewolf. I played one other game of Werewolf, I think, after that, and it was a game that had a vampire faction, because this is like the Ultimate Werewolf, so they have lots of different characters. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure the moderator ran it incorrectly. So made for a very unfun game, and then I got eliminated, and I was like, That was my last time.
I feel like the player elimination thing is probably the most important piece of why Blood on the Clocktower is better than Werewolf, because like in Werewolf, once you are dead, everybody knows what you are, and you are basically done with the game.
Yeah. How long was it before you played in person?
I did not play in person until Clocktower Con 1.
Okay.
I had actually story told in person before then because I bought a Grim.
Okay.
And then I would play I'd story tell a couple games for my friends, but I'd never played in person until Clocktower Con in 2022. Or no, 2023.
23. Yeah.
Yeah, for Clocktower Con 1, and I played 15 games over those 3 days.
Lovely. I guess first let's start with that first online game. Do you remember what
Yeah.
your first game or several games were like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this was on the No Rules Barred servers, so it was a lot of folks that were familiar with No Rules Barred, and we would do shenanigans like they would on the streams on their games. It was first few games, of course, for Trouble Brewing. My very first character was Washerwoman. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. And then my next game was I was the spy. So I think I might have bluffed Washerwoman again. So yeah, it's just a lot of Trouble Brewing, and then I would recommend if you're just getting into it from one, then play Trouble Brewing probably a dozen times before moving on to something else. We moved on faster than that just because we were already used to S&V BMR, and then people were already starting to write their own scripts. So
yeah.
Yeah,
people want to rush through, but it's always good to try to get those fundamentals down at least, or at least the kind of basics of how to, what is it like to bluff? What is it like to, everybody goes through kind of an evolution, because everybody usually starts out with just saying what their information is, which can be fine, but then after a while you realize, oh, well, I told everybody an empath and now a poisoner targeted me, or I told everybody I'm the fortune teller, then the demon killed me the next night. So you kind of learn, or told everybody I'm a soldier, and now I've done nothing because now the demon's never going to...
People think I'm sus now.
Yeah. Since you mentioned that, I forgot you had a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So how many games have you played?
I'm currently sitting at 678.
Lovely. How often do you get to play, currently?
I typically, so I'm pretty busy in my personal life, so I don't get to play probably as much as I'd like, but I think that helps me enjoy the games that I do get to play more. So I'm basically just playing the 2 games on TPI Sundays right now. I have played on Hard Claim before. I would love to jump on there again. I used to play on Patter Stream. I do miss those guys. But that's UK time, and now I have a big boy 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, I do love there's so many groups, so it is somewhat easy to find some groups somewhere that matches up with both your personality and your time, and yeah. So when you've been playing online, then you got to play a couple years later in person. What was it like playing in person for the first time?
Definitely different. I still tried to play as close to what I had to discern my playstyle to be. I would if I was good and I didn't have any reasons to lie, I would just tell the truth. And then if I was evil, I would basically stick to one role, and if I ended up being in a double claim, all right.
I always enjoy in person because really the game's designed that most people... the game asks that people stay in the circle. Most people don't really run it that way, I don't think, anymore, but I do like at least staying close to the circle and playing that way. And it was only a few months ago that I played an in-person game. Usually I'm running the games, but I did play a game, and I was the demon, and I pulled one of my minions aside, and then I tend to talk too loud in person.
Yeah.
So I'm finding myself...
I also run into that problem.
Yeah. It's just an interesting experience to be like, oh, this is what this is like, trying to communicate and not look suspicious doing it.
I recently was at a my local area has a board game convention, and there is a werewolf slash Clocktower group there. So I was very happy to go to that. I was recognized, which is weird. Um, and yeah, just got a few games in there, and it's fun playing with people that are like newer to it, because nothing's the same. Nothing's what you're used to anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that meta thing, because everybody, kind of figures out some metas or knows the strategies. But when you don't know any of that, it makes it more unpredictable.
Exactly.
I saw somebody on Discord yesterday or today, one of the two, mentioned that they had, it was a game with a thief in Trouble Brain, and they had picked a dead player that didn't have a dead vote, so it didn't really do anything, of course. And it's like, okay, yeah, that was, comes from inexperience. But also that same inexperience is sometimes what accidentally causes a poisoner to choose the demon who's bluffing soldier. And now there's no deaths at night, and everybody's like, oh, well, he must actually be the soldier. I was like, oh, okay.
Sometimes you back into the right answer.
Right.
Yeah, I was getting into. I was playing. It was mostly. It was like only like Trouble Brewing and a couple games of Sex and Violence at this convention I was at, and I had people like want to kill me because I was lying and I was a good player, and I'm like, well, you do that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Trouble
And
Brewing.
I guess these folks don't.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Trouble Brewing and you're just telling everybody you're the soldier and you are the soldier, you kind of don't have an ability unless the demon just maybe thinks you're not the soldier. But yeah, there's incentives to lie, even for good players. It tells you that right in the spiel, which hopefully every storyteller is reading to every new player in the game.
Hopefully, yeah.
Don't skip it.
No, don't skip
it. So if you're sitting for a game and you pull your token, do you hope that it's blue or red?
Generally, I hope it's blue. If it's red and it's a minion, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have fun. if I'm the demon, I'm just like, okay, I gotta lock in now.
What kind of characters do you like to play? Do you like more passive characters? Do you prefer characters that maybe get information? Do you have a style there?
I think I prefer passive characters more. I love an outsider. If I pull an outsider, I'm never sad. And yeah, you can just kind of depending on the script. If it's a Fangu script, then obviously you're not going to come out and say it unless you're feeling bold. But I will just tell people yep, I'm an outsider. Don't have much to do. Give me your information and I'll try and help you solve the game. Or let's find the outsider count. Let's blah blah blah.
I find as evil I bluff outsider too often, because they are so simple and just kind of laid back. What's your favorite outsider character?
Mutant.
Oh yeah.
I have a relationship with madness that's fun. I will, if I'm the mutant, never breaking it until I'm dead. Never breaking it. Full stop. If I'm a Serenovus, I'm gonna comply completely. If I'm made Serenovus mad, I should say. Right. Gonna completely stick with that. I don't like breaking madness for those. Pixie. People may or may not know that Pixie is my least favorite character, and it's not that it's a bad character. I just hate being the Pixie.
I can see that.
Yeah, because I always end up dead. The one good game I had as a Pixie, I was actually the drunk Pixie, and I was confirming the demon, who jumped to me.
Classic.
Which so I wasn't actually the Pixie there, but hey, it was a good game.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like talking about madness in these interviews too, because it's such a unique concept to the game.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too to see, because some people don't ever want to break it, and I know people who, if they draw the mutant token, they're going to claim mutant day one right out of the gate as a dare to the storyteller.
Yeah. Absolutely. Or the same way with the Tinker. It's just like calling that's a particular thing that I've seen a lot of. Just you just call the storyteller a coward.
Yeah,
You're a coward if you don't kill me.
I've always wanted, and I would only ever do this with somebody that I 100% know for sure would be okay with it. but I have wanted to start day one and kill the Tinker immediately. Again, yeah. I would only ever do that with somebody I absolutely know 100% for sure would be okay with it. And also, I don't think it make sure it wouldn't break the game. Maybe if
exactly,
it was maybe like a Godfather Zombull game or something. But
sure.
But I don't know. I think that'd be fun. But as a storyteller, you don't want to do things just because it's fun for yourself. So
yeah. In fact, that's true for every player. I feel if you're doing things just to entertain yourself, then you're not really serving anybody around you.
Absolutely. So you like passive characters? I guess Tea Lady makes for a good character then.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think about the script in particular because I guess Tea Lady and Pacifist are kind of. Pacifist is definitely passive.
Yeah. That's another character I would love to draw on a BMR. Just like you just kind of just get to do what you want and not worry about it. If that's the way you want to play it, like you don't worry about it. You just if your neighbor dies, then you let people know that, hey, that means one of them is evil, or a sailor drank with me last night, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if you're the pacifist and somebody survives execution, you're like, that was probably me.
Yeah. My main thing to do as pacifist is just vote on everything.
Yeah. Yep. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah. I want to see those executions. I mean, you always want the executions to go through, of course, but pacifists, you're extra incentivized to be like, I don't care if it's a good player. If they're good, then they should be saved.
Yeah, exactly.
In most cases. Speaking of madness again, how do you feel about Sex and Violence as a script?
Sex and Violence is I will say it is my least favorite base 3. That doesn't mean it's bad by any means. It's still head and shoulders above most scripts, but it's just not as much fun for me because it's so information heavy, and I'm not like an information style player, at least at this moment. That may change, but yeah. So everything should come with that little asterisk. I'm like, right now, I'm not an information style player. But
you're just setting yourself up to be interviewed from a year from now, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 2026. Brendan just comes back and he's like, I only like information roles now.
Here's how everything's different from what I said last year.
I drink wine now. Yep. So I mean, yeah. Sex and Violence is great. If that's what's on offer, then I'll for sure play it. But it's just not it's not what I gravitate towards.
Then how do you feel Trouble Brewing compares between the two?
Trouble Brewing is hard to quantify because it's perfect. It's a perfect script of Blood on the Clocktower, but it's not my favorite.
I've heard that answer before, and I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's all you can say really about Trouble Brewing is it's perfect.
Are there any particular custom scripts that you find yourself drawn to?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. If it's fun, I'll play it. I'll play any script. There's no like Brendan Bane characters that like if it's on a script I won't play it, like Legion or Atheist. Some folks have that, but I'm just like if it's a good group, especially the folks that I play with on TPI, then I'll play anything.
And they'll run anything too.
Yeah, exactly that too.
Yeah. I believe
I forget who wrote this one, but I do really enjoy Extension Cord.
I know the guy. I'll let him know. I think we played in a Legion game together once, and I think we were on the same Legion team. I can't remember. Maybe we were on opposite teams.
Possibly.
Hard to narrow it down, right? I don't play as many games because I storytell so often, so I guess the games I play tend to stick out a little bit more. I think that's my only time I played it in a Legion game, come to think of it.
I have been, on my spreadsheet, I keep track of how many times I've been certain characters. I have been Legion 6 times and won 4 of those games, so do have a decent track record with being Legion.
Yeah, I want to say I think I remember hearing that Legion has a pretty high win rate, but it could be, maybe it's a low win rate. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, it's either really good or really bad.
Not in the middle.
How do you feel about some of the characters that are like very like storyteller dependent? You mentioned Atheist, and then you also placed Wizard. Now that it's released in that same,
Yeah.
How do you feel about those characters?
I love them. I mean, they have their place for sure. They're not going to fit in every game, but especially not Atheist, especially not. I guess Heretic is storyteller driven, but it's just one of those games, one of those things that like the storyteller is involved in the game too. So like if you have a general, like the storyteller's opinion on what's going on matters. High priestess,
Mm-hmm.
what's another fisherman. You just
Yeah,
where I do enjoy characters that bring in the storyteller more. Those are a lot of fun.
yeah. I also like combining Heretic with Fisherman, not Fisherman, Heretic and General quite a bit, because General can be a great way to kind of judge how the game is going. Like if a lot of good players are dying and your storyteller is telling you a good's winning, maybe you should be trusting that Heretic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because so you would always run a heretic general as you're flipping the information.
I don't describe it exactly as flipping per se, but it's more like it's taken into account.
Taking in all the factors for
Yeah.
the general. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like if it's a heretic game and everybody's like, I think Brendan's a demon and we're close to executing Brendan, well, evil's winning currently.
You're right.
So yeah. Like I said, it's not exactly flipping. Like in practice, you might could say, I don't know. It's very pedantic, I guess, but
yeah. I mean, it's however you want to describe it, but yeah, that works.
Yeah. Another game warping character I think is interesting to ask about is something like a Poppy Grower.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you feel about being on an evil team with Poppy Grower?
It's just I don't have like super strong I don't have like super strong articulated thoughts on stuff like this. I'm just like, hey, it's just a different aspect to the game, and you just got to work with it. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. So if you tell me hey Brendan, you're a minion. That's it. Bye. And I'm just like, oh, cool, Poppy Grower. And then you just kind of got to roll with it because what other choice do you have?
Yeah, makes sense. So looking at BMR here a bit, of course you got an interesting spread of demons. I know Puka's probably my favorite just because the complexity that confuses everybody else is like just right up my alley mechanically.
For sure. I always remember somebody said once the Puka token text should read, each night kill a player, the storyteller consults the almanac.
Yeah. They have like flow charts and everything. I'm like, I don't need a flow chart.
yeah. Once you understand it, it's pretty straightforward.
Even though BMR is my least favorite to play of the base scripts, even though I do enjoy playing it, it is probably my favorite to storytell because I love the mechanics of it, and it suits me.
And it's more. I mean, I guess there's not as much storyteller agency. There's some, like with who do you drunk as the inkept players, who do you drunk with what the soldier picks, but yeah.
Well, most people will say, I think that there is storyteller agency, and it's like more important than S&V, although I don't know if I entirely agree, but like those choices have pretty big bearing on the game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like with S&V, you can like if there's a demon change, then you choose who dies. But so there's stuff like that. But
yeah. What's challenging for me for S&V is coming up with that information on the spot. Okay, well, what's the other character you show for a dreamer? What's your savant info? Savant and Fisherman are my storyteller bane characters.
Savant is something that I have never successfully bluffed. If I am the Savant, I'll get my Savant info, but I can't like pretend I'm the Savant when I'm not.
I did have a catfishing game where I was the imp, and the bluffs that were given to me, they were Savant, Snake Charmer, and Drunk.
What?
The storyteller gave Drunk as a bluff, basically as a hint, because we also had a pit hag on the team. So
sure.
So you did want that as a hint that was like, oh hey, we could turn somebody into the drunk and mess up their info.
Sure.
Which I can kind of get. One of the problems was the pit tag was in the investigator ping and did not last very long. So it happens. Anyway, long story short, I said, well, I guess I'm going to bluff Savant for the first time.
Yeah, a week ago of recording as of a week ago today, as we are recording this, I was in a game as the Godfather in a game of catfishing in an investigator ping, and I survived until day 4, I think, and that was just because I tied on myself twice, and that just basically outing is evil. I had a grand old time in that game, but yeah, because sometimes when you don't have a choice, you just got out evil. And then use the fact that you're out at evil to try and steer the game from that position.
Yeah, a minion's job is to be a distraction, and one of my favorites I saw and I think this might have been a BMR game. This would have been Robert, I believe, and people wanted to kill him, and he did the whole, "Oh, I'll be okay with it tomorrow. Just give me one more night." Tomorrow comes, and people kind of forget about it. And then they go to be like, "Oh, well, we execute Robert," and he does that again. It's like, well, tomorrow, just one more night. And then, like, there wasn't, like, I think somebody else was already on the block and it didn't get enough votes or whatever. And he does it, doing it, like, on a third night. He was basically kind of like that same thing where he's kind of, like, outing evil. But
yeah.
He did the same thing, and everybody's like, okay. It was a lot of fun. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I successfully bluffed Savant. I say successfully. I lost the game, but...
you managed to get some people to believe you were the Savant.
Yeah, well, it turns out that being a constant storyteller meant that I was actually pretty good at just kind of randomly coming up with stuff that not only sounded plausible, but was actually true. Like, I apparently the Savant info I'd made up was legitimate. Like, on night or day 3, I said it was like, oh, somebody used the once per game ability last night. Because I thought in my head, that might be the night that a philosopher decides to use their ability. That exact thing happened. It was lovely. Kind of by the end, it was like me, another player who was like kind of confirmed good, and then I think a minion. And it was kind of a tough spot. And I don't know. I just remember kind of like having a breakdown and kind of being like, well, you can choose me or you can choose this other person. They chose me and I lost. But it was a good game regardless.
Yeah, good.
All of that to say that I was thinking about the demons on this script, BMR. And
that old saw.
So I'm just curious if you have a favorite from this script.
I think I like a Shabaloth.
I think it's Ben Burns' favorite. If I don't.
There's a lot of storyteller agency with whether and when to regurgitate a player. Some people say resurrect, but like no, it says regurgitate on there.
It is regurgitate.
It's like the difference between drunking and poisoning. It's like no, you should say regurgitate. Yeah, I love a Shabaloth. I had a really good game as a Shabaloth once. This was at Ravenswood Sock in England. Nice. One of my neighbors claimed one of my bluffs, so I killed them right away.
Great.
Turned out to be the Exorcist. It worked out.
No, yeah. One of my favorite things about the glossary for regurgitation and resurrection is that I think they share the same exact definition. Like, I think they're lumped together, but it's resurrection, regurgitation, and reborn, if I remember correctly.
Really? Okay. I'm not familiar with the glossary.
I think it's reborn. It might be something different, but it's something that's very clearly a reference to something we don't have yet.
Ooh. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because nothing right now uses that term. So,
interesting.
What that means? I don't know. That's what speculations and spoilers are for on the unofficial Discord.
Absolutely. I haven't played on there in a long time, but it's a good time.
Yeah. I know a lot of people kind of got their start there, and then some people stick around, but a lot of people, of course, end up moving on.
They end up graduating to more to smaller servers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too negatively about.
No. Yeah, that wasn't my intention, but
yeah. Well, I'm trying to make it not my intention. But there's something to be said about playing in a more private space that
Mhm.
um, it's more tight knit. Now, of course, obviously, the unofficial has the advantage of games are going on constantly.
For sure, for sure.
Uh,
If you want a game, you can have one.
yeah, absolutely. How about the minions for the script? Is there any particular minion you like?
Um, I love a DA. I love randomly protecting a good player on night one and then just trying to get them killed and then making people think they're suspicious. And then protecting myself the next day after I got that other person killed.
Right. I like DA as a character. I think for me, I don't like the pressure that comes with it to try to like kind of guess ahead as to who you should be choosing.
Figuring out the pattern is tough. I did have a mastermind win a few weeks, like a month or so ago. I know those are relatively rare.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun.
I think I've seen Evan say before that that evil should be going for purposely going for mastermind wins more often.
Yeah.
I did have a mastermind win once in person. This was like a late convention game at our local convention. Late game at BMR, pretty big. We had travelers. It's a PO game, and we go the first 3 or 4 nights with no kills. Because night 1 the PO, or night 2, the PO charged, and then the Courtier picked them. So we're like day 5 in a like 16 player BMR game with no deaths, and it's like past midnight. I think we finally have a death. Anyway, long story short, my demon's right next to me, and he's bluffing Gossip. And it dawns on me, I'm like, I can just throw him under the bus. So I tell everybody, it's like, well, there's been no deaths. He's claiming a character that seems kind of suspicious with no deaths happening for 4 nights in a row. Maybe we should kill him. We do. And the next night, or next day, it's Mastermind Day, the good goon wants to lock themselves in as a good goon. Nobody's thinking about a Mastermind Day because, hey, it's been another night of no death. Whatever. Like, we're used to this.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that the 5th night is the Mastermind night.
That's awesome.
So they get executed, and they're like, can I just like run to the bathroom real quick since I'm dead? And the night phase is starting. And the storyteller's like, if you can hold on just a moment, the game is over.
That's
and they
amazing.
were like, what?
Kind of similar. Yeah. This was a game of TB. I was a Scarlet Woman, and I got my demon killed and the other minion killed too, just to try and get some social cred. And then it ended up being me, the virgin, who failed to proc, and the person who failed to proc the virgin. And somehow I only got 2 votes on myself, so that means that we could overturn it. And that was that's how we won. Sometimes throwing it, depending on your character, obviously. Sometimes throwing your demon under the bus helps.
Yeah, meta is always revolving, and I think it's funny that I remember we had a game. Basically, you get to the point where you try to throw everybody off by throwing the demon under the bus, and you do that so often that people start saying, "Oh, that might actually be the demon because he'll throw his demon under the bus." And it's just exactly. Like this. I've seen the evil team lose that way.
Yeah, for sure. You just gotta keep them guessing.
Yeah. Looking at the outsiders for the script, I'm curious how you feel about Goon, and then also more generally characters that can turn evil.
If it's built into the mechanic that like it's not your choice whether you turn good or evil, then like a Goon, then I'm a fan. I'll play a Goon. I have a good win rate as an evil outsider. Looking at my spreadsheet. So like yeah, if I'm an evil Goon, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to play along, knowing that I could easily flip back. For like same with cult leader, it's not really my choice whether I turn good or evil. Politician, that's more of an active choice that I don't really enjoy myself. I am not gonna, if I pull politician, I'm just gonna play for good.
That's fair. Yeah. I've definitely been on record many times over that Ogre is my favorite character in the entire game right now.
Ogre is that is a great choice for favorite character. You just have a friend.
Yeah. They don't have to believe you, but but you can just believe in them and then go along with whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I haven't. After the initial burst of when it came out, I haven't really played in many ogre games. I should try and bring that back.
Yeah, it's a little tough because there's it seems like there's both limited ways to have good characters turn evil, but also it feels like at the same time it's like a competition because you don't normally want scripts with more than one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you want one, it's not always going to be the ogre. Like Goon might be the best choice. So
Yeah.
it's not the hardest to fit into a script, but yeah, I should try to be on the lookout more for more ogre scripts. There's just so many different characters that it's hard to showcase them all. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
others are staples, and it's hard to not have them in scripts sometimes.
Exactly. Like Drunk. Drunk is probably 9 times out of 10 going to be on a script.
Yeah, I usually say the characters that I think most like describe the game, like represent the game, are like Drunk, Poisoner, and Imp.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and if I'm not mistaken, yep, I'm. Those are the 3 characters I have been the most.
Well, there you go. They just fit into they don't fit into all scripts, but they fit just so easily.
Yeah.
Speaking of not exactly Poisoner, but we did recently get a character called Zon, which kind of covers that space. So, again, I'm just kind of thinking about some more recent characters that came out. So I'm curious what you think of Zon.
I like Zon. Obviously, figuring out the outsider count is going to be super important to that. So, it's going to be fun for a script builder to like put a mutant, put a drunk on a script like that, or put like a Fengu on that script, so the outsiders aren't going to want to come out. So it's just it's a really cool character that like is kind of like a reverse minstrel almost. But
Yeah.
it's just really like a simple execution. Like, hey, you have this many outsiders. That's when everybody's poisoned.
I've been thinking about Zon. I don't have a ton of experience with Zon yet. It's still pretty new, and sort of like ogres. Like you kind of have to find scripts that have it on it, and not as many have it on it yet. Because I've seen people argue that having drunk on a script is not good because then you can't figure out the outsider count.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, like I don't know. I guess there's whole debates about how solvable a game should be, and I think different people mean different things by it. This is really a whole like conversation topic on its own, so maybe
for sure
outside the purview. But I don't know. It was just a tangent. I was thinking about how Zon fits on a script. Yeah.
Like a real big meta conversation about. I mean, like as I've said, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. If you throw me in a game and it ends satisfactorily, and by that I mean everybody had fun, then it doesn't really matter whether there was a solve. I mean, I guess it does. It matters that there was a solve to be had. Whether they find the right one is whatever.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about a couple other different characters that are interesting to think about. 2 that come to mind because they both changed the game to such a wild extent are Leviathan and Riot. And I'm not sure if you have any particular thoughts on either of those 2 characters.
When you say Leviathan, I think of the game where I was a zealot in a Leviathan game. So that meant that because we couldn't execute down to 5, I had to vote on everything. But I had a lot of fun socially with that. Everybody just had to believe eventually that I was the zealot because I was voting on everything. If somebody nominated me, I was just like, I don't think this is a good execution. I'm voting on it.
That's the best part of zealot is be like, I don't think we should vote on this.
Yep, exactly. Riot. I haven't played Riot since the change.
I haven't either.
I'm used to the original, and it's not that it's not fun. It's just it's for a very particular kind of feel that you're going for, which I'm usually not up for.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I love Leviathan. It's more of a puzzle. A Leviathan game is more of a puzzle than basically any other type of and demon.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested to see its home script when it comes out.
For sure.
In 2034 or whenever it might be. Yeah.
It's going to be so weird because we've had the base 3 for so long that eventually we're going to have 3 more official scripts, or 4, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they're calling the greatest show, whether that's just everything else or
it's an addition, but not a script.
Okay, yeah. So we're basically getting 3 more base. So we're going to have the base 6, and then, but people are going to have been playing for 5+ years with just the base 3 and all these other characters in a mishmash. So it's going to be really interesting to see the dynamic of it, like whether people I don't want to say reject, but like don't like take to them as well as they like the base 3.
It's funny that you mentioned base 6 because I have been adamantly opposed to referring to it as base 6. and it probably is mostly being a pedant again. But
because they weren't, they didn't. They're not the base. They're the expansion.
Yeah, like I said, it's partially pedantry. Part of it too is
that's the thing about pedantry. It's usually right.
Part of it too is, and again, this is like kind of just off topic, but whatever. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So one of the Q&As, I asked a question for a TPI because I was really curious of their answer. Trouble Brewing's your beginner edition script, whatever. S&V, BMR, intermediate. Garden of Sin and the Tome are Tomb, whatever, are intermediate, and then Midnight and House of the Damned is expert. So my question was, are players expected to be able to go from Trouble Brewing to, let's say, Garden of Sin because it's intermediate, or should they still play S&V and BMR first?
Good question.
And the answer was basically, and this was Evan's answer, that they should be playing S&V and BMR first and being familiar with those, then going to the other intermediate scripts.
So they're going to be like intermediate plus.
Yeah. There's some discussion on Discord that TPI will probably never care about, but basically trying to push for naming it something other than intermediate, like some others, like maybe advanced.
Level 2, level 3, and then expert or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, part of the reason why I think not calling it base 6 can be beneficial is base 3 also separates it from the other 3.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is where you should be starting. From the pedantry point of view, expansions are definitionally not the base.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing about pedantry. Like I said, it's just like it's usually right. It's just annoying how right it is.
Well, I definitely annoy people sometimes. So
same.
It is what it is. I don't try to, but are there any?
Sometimes.
Are there any other like characters or topics you would like to talk about while we're here?
I didn't have anything that came to mind. No, I just like have fun. Like if you're not having fun, is it even a game? Like
yeah, a lot of players want to focus on like the solve or whatever. There's just a lot of different ways to play it. Some people focus maybe too much on the fun.
Mm-hmm. That's perfectly fair.
But there's a spectrum, and it's fine to be on most places in that spectrum. Yeah, there's just so many different ways to play, and fun, in my opinion, should be the most important thing. You should still be playing to win, because I think you don't really have a game at that point. You said it earlier, I think says it best. Don't do things just because it's fun for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, make it fun for everybody. And part of that is trying to win, but...
Yeah, if you are having fun and you are not negatively impacting anybody else's fun, then everybody should have a good time, and that's the most important part about this game or any game.
Yeah, and for me, that's part of the reasons why we talked about like changing up your play style, changing up your meta. I constantly quote Milk, try things, and let's have fun with it. I still get like a little bit of anxiety when I'm a demon or evil, but I've mostly gotten over it.
The stress of pulling the demon really focuses the mind for me. Because for the longest time, demon was my on my spreadsheet, which I'm I'm such a nerd on the spreadsheet, but like for a long time, not currently, but demon was my best performing my character type.
Wow. Cool.
And that's just because I'm stressed if I'm the demon, so I'm like focused. Whereas if I'm a good player or a minion, I'm just going to be like more like just happy, having a dandy time.
Yeah, I have to talk myself into being relaxed as a demon, especially. I've played in numerous TPI games, high-profile games that were like release character.
Sure, yeah.
Release character streams that are, you got 1,000+ people watching, and just kind of crash and burn as a demon.
Yep.
And it's like,
those are never fun.
Yeah, it's not ideal. That's for sure. The worst one was probably Summoner, not a demon, but you create a demon, and I got executed on day 2. And
oh no!
Ben was like, "This is the first time we can't put the release game on the on YouTube." But I'm like, "Cool,
cool. That makes me feel great."
I kind of had to actively convince myself. Obviously, Ben, nobody was mad at me or anything, but I had to convince myself. It's like, this isn't shitty.
Yeah,
but it's totally fine. I had a few games where it just didn't go well, but Kazali. Kazali, add two outsiders with my ability, or maybe it just added one.
That is one thing that I'm grateful for, that I have never been in a release game because it didn't work with my schedule. So I've never been in a release game, so I've never had that particular stress.
Yeah, my Kazali release game was my 2 minions were both outsiders. So like, so we're immediately like -1 outsider for my ability, and then didn't last very long. But the important thing is always have fun with it. So I think attitude's a big thing in this game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So one final question before we go. Once more, looking at the script BMR.
Yeah.
Which character would you like to be in real life?
Oh, which character would I like to be in real life? From
always get a very similar reaction every time I ask that question. I love it.
From so do I? If I am a tea lady, say, does that mean that like my 2 good neighbors can't die?
I always tell people you can interpret it however you would like. You can take it literally. You can take it character ability wise. One of my favorite answers is Navian said poisoner, and they didn't literally mean that they want to poison people, but they had a whole like thing about like creating potions and stuff, and yeah.
This could be interpreted wrongly. This could be interpreted many different ways, so we'll see how it goes. I think I would pick Chambermaid, because then I could just pick 2 people, find out if they're awake, and then text them if they want to hang out.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll go for. Chambermaid.
Sounds good. All right. Before we go, is there anything you would like to plug?
Nope. Just watch TPI Sundays. Watch me being my own goofy self. Drink cider. And have fun out there.
All right. Well, Brendan, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and thank you all for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hard Claim.